Senator Roberts, you have the call.
Thank you. This bill is an embarrassment and an example of the Labor government hypocrisy and deceit. The Social Security and other legislation amendment technical changes number 2 Bill 2025. Before and during the last federal election, Labor used the Robodebt scandal, and it was a scandal, as an election weapon to electorally gut the previous coalition government. It worked, and Labor won the election based on the incompetence of the coalition and on what Labor highlighted as the coalition's cruel betrayal of Robodebt victims. So, what do we have here? Labor wants to pass this bill to retrospectively validate the unlawful income apportionment method that underpinned the Robodebt rip-off. You pretended to oppose it, now you want to validate it. The injustice, deceit and betrayal. To make matters worse, persons ripped off to the extent of thousands of dollars are being offered puny payments to a maximum of $600 when actually owed $15,000 or more. That's not justice, that's theft. Labor is inducing people to accept $600 now so people go away and to ensure they never become able to reasonably claim what the government legally owes them. You're conning these people. They're already in misery and now you're conning them. Applications for the scheme will only be open for 12 months. Accepting a resolution payment would discharge the Commonwealth from any further liability. That ends it. In other words, the compensation scheme is completely inadequate. Worse, it's deceptive, deliberately dishonest. Many Robodebt victims likely voted for Labor to get justice on Robodebt. That's what you promised them. Those same people will now never get close to what they're owed, not even close. The government is blatantly cheating Robodebt victims out of thousands of dollars, in some cases tens of thousands of dollars. This is not just an uncaring government, and on this issue, its approach is not just lazily getting around paying lawful entitlements. No, this government is working hard to rip off innocent, vulnerable taxpayers. These faulty assessments extend back to September 2003, 22 years. Instead of paying back exactly what each victim of the unlawful Robodebt calculations is owed, the government is trying to introduce retrospective legislation to make what was unlawful then now lawful. And you wonder why we're upset. This sneaky new bill is making what was illegal legal, the very reverse of your promise before the election. It will try to validate debts which were unlawful when they tried to collect them. With potentially millions, I'll say that again, in fact, this bill will try to validate debts which were unlawful when they tried to collect them. With potentially millions of unlawful debts to deal with, the government is using this bill to welch on its debts to innocent Australians, victims of government dishonesty. There's been little consultation with this bill, and it shows. There's little detail about how the scheme should work, and in some areas, detail is totally missing. Instead, much of the detail is left to the minister's use of future legislative instruments to bypass Parliament, to bypass scrutiny. Now there's Labor's catch cry. Bypass scrutiny. Two words that tell us all about Labor in government at the moment. The complete opposite of transparency. Bypass scrutiny. The government has not justified why it considers it necessary to rely on retrospective validation of the previously found unlawful means of calculation. The intention is clear that the government wishes to validate previous decisions that were made on an unlawful basis. You want to validate what you were supposed to fix. The rip-off that you were going to fix, you are now validating, quietly cementing in place the Liberals' violations that before the election Labor screamed about. Anglicare Australia, the Australian Council of Social Welfare and even the Commonwealth Ombudsman have indicated their concerns that the bill does not address cases where income apportionment wrongly resulted in debts and, in some instances, criminal prosecutions. This bill is an example of the government trying to cover up and weasel out of responsibility for the damage caused to innocent Australians who have been victims of the incompetence of the governments, both the Coalition and Labor. On this issue, the Coalition and government was incompetent, negligent, uncaring. People died because of this. Suicide. Labor in government, though, is deceitful, deliberately dishonest. Only one nation has the integrity to restore sound, honest, caring government. Only one nation cares about the Australian people. Only one nation puts our country, Australia, first. One nation will always act to protect the interests of Australians and will oppose this pathetically woeful bill, this dishonest, deliberately deceitful Labor bill.